What? Wait a minute. Lila, where are you going?
To Hawaii.
To Hawaii? Where would she find that kind of money? At that moment, it finally hit me. To my surprise, the money I had set aside for my daughter's college admission fee was gone. What the heck are you doing, Jason?
I'm going to take care of my mother, so don't get in the way of that.
Well then, I'll bring back home some souvenirs.
With that, the two of them left the house, grinning. I murmured softly as I watched their backs. Don't think that your wife in the house will always be there. My name is Wendy. I am a 46-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Jason, my daughter Beth, and my mother-in-law Lila. Originally, the three of us, Jason, Beth, and I, lived together, but after my father-in-law passed away about 5 years ago, my husband forced Lila to come live at our house. I honestly did not want to live with Lila. I knew that Lila clearly did not like me. The first time I began to think that was when I first met her and greeted her before the wedding.
Oh my, you are kind of a boring person, aren't you? I think you and Jason are not a good match.
I remember not being able to close my mouth since I was really surprised when she suddenly said such a thing to me. I was glad that my father-in-law scolded Lila then and apologized to me about it quickly, but I thought that she was a very insane person to say such a thing to me on when we just met.
I'm sorry my mother said such a terrible thing to you. Please, don't take it to heart.
My husband told me that later, but I wish he was the one who had warned Lila at that time. I remember being a little worried that Jason could not be strong enough to directly confront his own mother. But I still loved him, so I married him, and I knew I wouldn't be living with Lila or anything like that, at least back then. However, after I started living with my husband, I learned an unpleasant fact that I had not expected at all. That is that my husband was an overbearing husband.
Since we got married, I want you to quit your job.
What? You told me I could work even after we got married.
I may have said so at first, but I've changed my mind. Quit your work immediately and focus entirely being a housewife.
No way. You can't just say that out of the blue. Besides, I have to tell the company at least a month in advance to quit, you know.
Then you better definitely quit by the end of this month.
My husband said that and gave me no choice but to quit my work. In the end, I quit the company after a month and became a full-time housewife. From then on, I began to distrust my husband bit by bit. I wondered if he would ever protect me if something ever happened. It was during this time that I found out that I was pregnant. When I told my husband that I was pregnant, he was very happy.
You did a great job, Wendy.
I was very happy to hear him compliment me like that. After that, he became very kind to me and began to treat me really well.
Are you okay? Wendy, don't take it too hard. If it gets difficult, we can order some food, okay? Both you and the baby needs to be healthy.
I was really happy that he said that to me when I was suffering from my morning sickness. And only when I was pregnant, Lila was also kind and treating me well.
Wendy, is there anything I can help you with? I'll go shopping or something instead of you.
Oh, thank you, Lila. That would be a great help. Lila had always been a bully to me. Every time I saw her since the beginning of our marriage. But only during the pregnancy, she was kind to me as if she had changed her mind. But when the delivery date was approaching, an unpleasant incident happened again.
So, did you find out the gender of the baby?
My mother-in-law, my husband, and I were having a relaxing cup of tea when she asked me that question. Yes, the doctor told me that we're having a baby girl. As I said this while rubbing my belly, I felt the air freeze. Sensing something was wrong, I looked at my husband and Lila. They both slowly closed and opened their eyes and sighed.
I knew it. You really are a useless woman.
Excuse me?
Give us back the time we spent being so nice to you.
Wait, what do you mean?
Normally, it's a wife's duty to have a boy first and reassure her husband's family about leaving an heir, you know?
Huh? What are you going to do if my husband and I lose our family line here? No way. The moment my husband and mother-in-law found out that we're having a baby girl, they completely changed their attitude 180 degrees. From then on, no matter how sick I was, they never cared about me and the baby at all.
Why isn't dinner ready?
I'm sorry, I'm not feeling very well.
You do know that you can't get sick just because you're pregnant, right? Don't you dare slack off.
Yelling at me like that, my husband went back to my parents-in-law's house for dinner. I was so worried because I was left alone all the time even though I wasn't at my best and I wasn't feeling well at all. I was also worried about what would happen after our daughter was born. I wondered if Jason would treat my daughter with disrespect. While I had these worries and fears in my mind, I finally gave birth to my daughter. When my daughter was born, my husband and Lila both said she was adorable and happily held her in their arms. So, I was relieved to see that. For the time being, it seemed that they would take good care of my daughter. In fact, my husband loves our daughter so much that he now leaves work early and comes home early just so he could spend more time with her. Thanks to my husband taking care of our daughter, I was able to take a bath at night and cook a few side dishes for the coming week. But his attitude towards me remained the same.
Are you actually taking good care of Beth during the day? Are you feeding her milk properly?
Yes, of course. I'm taking good care of her.
If anything happens to Beth, I won't forgive you.
My husband glares at me as he says this. Is this the way a husband should look at his own wife? If this scene was from a comic, sparks would be flying to show how angry he looked. And to make matters worse, Lila also came to our house frequently.
I've come to see you, little Beth. Wendy, please prepare tea and sweets right away.
Lila would always come over unannounced, not caring if I was doing the housework or not. I had just finally put my daughter to bed and was quietly cleaning up when Lila took the liberty of picking her up and waking her up even though she was sound asleep. Then my daughter started to wail and cry.
Hey, Wendy! Beth is crying!
Thinking that she was the one who made her cry, I interrupted my cleaning to take care of my daughter. I glanced at Lila, who was just gracefully eating tea cakes at the dining table. I was fed up with Lila and my husband being so selfish and treating me so horribly. Then time passed. My daughter turned 3 and started kindergarten, so I decided to go to work part-time. I thought it would be better to save money for my daughter's tuition in the future. However, when I told my husband that I was going to work part-time, he opposed to that idea.
You complain that I don't make enough money? What a terrible wife you are.
That's not what I meant. I just want to work so that Beth can get a good education without worrying about money. When I said I was going to work part-time for our daughter, my husband was giving it a thought.
Well, if it's for Beth's sake, I guess it can't be helped. But don't ever cut corners on the housework, understood?
I understand, I promise. And so I was able to work part-time.
Why are you working even though you're the housewife? Normally, a housewife is supposed to support the family, right?
Lila complained that way, but I didn't care what she said, and worked. I was glad I started working part-time, both mentally and financially, because I saw Lila less often, I was less stressed, and I was also able to reconnect with the society again. Conversing with people at work made me feel better, as I learned that there were other people who were also struggling with issues with their in-laws, or with their own partners. And so I spent my life balancing part-time work and housework. Time passed by in a flash, and my daughter became a middle school student. However, my father-in-law passed away around this time, and my husband brought Lila back home without discussing to me about it, because he felt sorry for her being alone. From then on, my difficult days with Lila began.
Hey, Wendy! I prefer to eat bread in the morning, and fried eggs. Make sure the yolk is well cooked, alright?
I greeted the morning with Lila's yelling voice. Lila had always bullied me, even 10-some years after I got married to Jason. Until now, I could put up with it because we lived apart, but now that we are living together, there is no escape. It was really difficult for me mentally. Then, in the midst of all this, my daughter started to realize what was happening and began to take my side.
Grandma, why are you so hard on Mom?
What?
No, I'm trying to educate your mom to be a proper wife as her mother-in-law. But it doesn't even seem or look like you're doing that. You look like you're enjoying tormenting Mom. Don't make my mom suffer.
What?
No way, I'm not doing that.
Lila flinched when my daughter spoke harshly to her like that. After that, Lila stopped picking on me in front of my daughter. When it was just the two of us, she would still pick on me, but I would talk to my daughter about it when it became too much, and Beth would get mad at Lila later on. Lila would argue back right away whenever I say something to her, but I guess she is still weak against her granddaughter. Lila was speechless and didn't know what to say whenever Beth said things to her. I felt much better knowing that my daughter was on my side. But then, a few years later, since she got used to it, Lila began to talk back to my daughter as expected, after Beth had been angry with her many times. She then started trying to get Jason on her side by telling him about it. So my husband scolded my daughter and became angry with me, saying,
"What kind of discipline did you even give Beth?"
My daughter argued against my husband, who was taking my mother-in-law's side, and so it was like Lila and Jason versus Beth and me was formed in our family. While the atmosphere in the house continued to be bad, I could not go through with a divorce so easily, considering that my daughter was about to take an entrance exam and go to college. But then something happened that made me lose my patience. It was the day of my daughter's high school graduation ceremony. I thought that at least today we would celebrate her graduation together as a family without any arguments. However, as I was getting ready to leave in the morning, I heard the sound of shoes being put on, and I rushed to the front door. Then I saw Lila about to leave the house with a large suitcase.
Huh?
Wait a minute, Lila, where are you going?
To Hawaii, of course.
To Hawaii? What do you mean?
My son and I are going on a trip to Hawaii.
Excuse me? What are you talking about? Beth's graduation ceremony is coming up. You do know that, right?
Ha! What's the fun in attending that cocky little girl's graduation ceremony? I'll choose to go to a fun trip with my son who loves me.
No way. As I froze in surprise at what Lila was saying, my husband came up behind me carrying a suitcase. Wait, are you seriously going on a trip? I've never heard of any parent not going to their own son or daughter's graduation ceremony.
Oh, shut up. Since you're gonna go anyways, I don't have to go, do I? I'm going to enjoy my trip to Hawaii with my mom starting today.
I can't believe Jason's leaving his own daughter to go on a trip. And I had something else on my mind. Where would they even find that kind of money to Hawaii? My husband is actually not good at saving money and tends to spend money away. So much so that I do my best to make ends meet. Therefore, I did not know where the money came from. At that moment, something came across my mind. I quickly checked the bank book. You're joking, right? To my surprise, the money I had set aside for my daughter's college admission had disappeared. What is the meaning of this, Jason? Could it be that you are using this money to go on a trip with your mother?
Yeah, because this is my money, right? I'm going to take care of my own mother. So, don't get in the way of that.
What the hell are you talking about? This is the money I worked part-time to save for my daughter. The amount you withdrew is equivalent to Beth's college admission fee.
It doesn't matter though, right? I mean, there's still lots of money in the bank book.
My husband then began to put on his shoes. I really can't believe it. What on earth is this man even thinking?
Well then, we'll bring back some souvenirs.
With that, the two of them left the house with a grin on their faces. I looked at their backs and murmured softly, "Don't think that your wife in the house will always be there." I sighed and hugged my daughter, who was looking at me all concerned.
Mom, does that mean that I can't go to college?
No, don't worry. I'll make sure you'll attend the college you worked so hard to get into. Saying this to my daughter, we attended her graduation ceremony. Then when we got home, I thought of a plan and decided to implement it. And the plan was to sell the house. Actually, the house we are living in now was bought by my father.
Since you two got married and will have a baby soon, Jason wouldn't be making that much money yet, so I'll buy a house for your family, honey.
Saying that, my father gave us the house as a gift. I am sure my husband forgot about those old days and thought it was the house he bought for us. So I immediately contacted my father and asked him to sell the house since the house was still under his name. Fortunately, a buyer was quickly found and I began preparing to move out with my daughter. As for my husband and Lila's belongings, I explained the situation and had them sent to my brother-in-law's house. My brother-in-law apologized to me, saying,
"I'm really sorry for the trouble my brother and my mother have caused you."
I am sure my brother-in-law must have had a hard time when he lived with those two as well. After we finished removing all of our belongings, my daughter and I decided to live temporarily at my parents' house for now. Then I received a call from my husband and Lila, who had returned from Hawaii.
"Oh, hey, what's going on? Why can't we get into the house?"
"Oh, that's because we sold the house. Since it's not ours anymore, we changed the locks right away."
"Huh? What do you mean? Why would you sell my house for?"
"I knew it. You did forget. That house is in my father's name, you know that, right?"
"What?"
"You and Lila crossed a line you shouldn't have crossed. So I won't tolerate you both anymore. There is no place for you and your mother in that house, and I'm divorcing you."
Divorce? Now wait a minute. What do you think you're doing?
"I'm doing whatever I think is right for my daughter and I. And I'm still being tormented by you people. Well, I guess from now on you guys might be in big trouble since you don't have your housekeeper anymore."
Oh no. I mean, where's our stuff then?
"I explained the situation to your brother and sent your stuffs at his place."
What the? What are you doing, Wendy?
"Huh?"
That guy and I don't get along, you know that.
"Yeah, I know that very well. But there's nowhere else where I could send your things, so it can't be helped. Anyway, I won't forgive you guys anymore. Let's talk about divorce through my lawyer." With that, I hung up the phone. I could hear Lila screaming, but I hung up before she could take over the phone and block the calls from them. I then demanded a divorce from my husband through my lawyer. My husband was reluctant until the end, but finally agreed. By the way, it seems that my brother-in-law had been mistreated by Lila and my husband, so he sold off their belongings one after another in order to get back to them. And he used the money to travel overseas. Even though Lila and my husband wanted to collect the rest of their belongings, they could not do so because my brother-in-law was gone traveling overseas. And since they have no savings at all, they were having trouble getting furniture and appliances right away, even if they rented a new room. Lila had been pushing me to do all the housework when we used to live together. And moreover, since she's getting older and can no longer move as much as she would like, my ex-husband is now forced to do the housework while working. And on top of that, he has to take Lila to the hospital. I think it's really nice that Jason is now paying the price for all the things he has been pushing me to do. Meanwhile, I have been offered a job as an office clerk at a company owned by a friend of my father's. I now have a steady income and I am able to pay for my daughter's college tuition. I will continue to live vibrantly as a single mother while taking care of my daughter and my parents. The combination of an overbearing husband and a mother-in-law who believes the wife is the worst. I think Wendy has endured well in such a family. I am glad that her daughter grew up to be a good girl. I hope Wendy and her daughter Beth continue to get along well with each other and cooperate with each other in various ways and live happily ever after. Thank you for watching to the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video. I am a part of this house too. I am your family member, you know. My mother-in-law Phyllis snickered when I said that.
Huh? Who are you? Who do you think you are? My family only consists of 4 people.
No matter what I do, my mother-in-law seems to treat me like a stranger. I ran out of patience and decided to go back to my parents' house. When my parents heard what I had to say, they were furious.
I will have a nice chat with them.
But I calmly replied to my parents, "Don't worry, I've already got my revenge from them. My name is Brianna. I'm 34 years old and I work from home. I recently got married to a man named Todd. We met at a matchmaking party held by my friend. Working from home, I rarely met anyone, and my friend, who was worried about that, set up the matchmaking party for me. All my life, I have been devoted to my studies, and my love life was secondary. Even after I became an adult, I continued to focus on work and didn't prioritize my love life. So before I knew it, I was almost turning in my 30s without having any experience in love. Then, I met Todd at the matchmaking party I attended. He was very bright, and he stood out at the party. I was very nervous because it was my first time to attend a party like this, but he talked to me a lot, and I was able to fit in well thanks to him. Then we changed seats, and everyone started talking to their neighbors, and I ended up next to Todd. So we talked about a lot of things.
Huh. Brianna, you work from home. That's so cool. It sounds like what people would do nowadays.
Oh, you think so? Personally, I think it's pretty dull.
That's not true. You should have more confidence in yourself.
I was glad he complimented me like that. And he even asked me out on a date. I had been attracted to him from the party, so I said yes to his date request, and we went out together on our day off. He was very interesting to talk to, and he kept leading me and pulling me along to do some things on the date. I was quite reserved when it came to romance, so I think a type like him was a good match for me. We even got married a year after we started dating. I was surprised that I got married much quicker than I had imagined. But I was very happy that he proposed to me and I wanted to marry him. Besides, I felt like I was at the right age to marry him, and I think he had that same idea in mind. Well, that's what I at least thought so at the time. Then we greeted each other's parents. There, I met my in-laws for the first time. Hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm Brianna.
Hi, nice to meet you. We are Todd's parents.
Thank you for marrying such a boy like him.
Hey, Mom, what do you mean?
Oh, you're right. I used the wrong word. Thank you for marrying such a guy like him.
What? That didn't change anything.
I was so amused by the exchange between him and his mother that I let out a laugh. At first, I was nervous about the wedding greeting, but thanks to his mother, I felt relaxed. From then on, the wedding greeting proceeded in a pleasant atmosphere from start to finish.
Brianna, I'm looking forward to being your family for a long time.
Yes, me too. Thank you very much. After that, the meeting between the two families was successfully completed, and Todd and I had a nice ceremony. All my friends attended the ceremony and congratulated me greatly for my marriage. I was very satisfied that the wedding ceremony was done exactly as I wanted it to be. After the wedding, my husband and I went on our honeymoon. It was my first time to go abroad, and I was very impressed by how wonderful it was. It was to Maldives, and it was a valuable experience for me as I had never left the US before. I would like to travel abroad regularly in the future, is what I thought to myself. Then my husband and I returned back to the US. Our joyful newlywed life was about to begin. I excitedly got off at the airport. Then my husband said this to me.
Actually, I have already prepared a room for us to live together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've already moved my stuff, so all I have to do is move Brianna's stuff. Why don't we pack up and move in together now?
Yeah, I will. I was surprised, not knowing that my husband had done that as a surprise. But I was very happy that he was thinking like that to make our newlywed life better together. Then my husband helped me pack my belongings. As expected, it was difficult to finish packing in one day, so we divided it into 2 or 3 days and packed little by little. We decided that if we were going to spend a few days, we should call a moving company, so I had my necessary belongings loaded onto a truck and my husband and I drove to the new house. I was excited to get in the car with my husband, but I felt a certain discomfort on the way. The roads around here do look familiar. I remember there's a supermarket here, and I think I have been here once. My husband entered a residential area, and it was at this point that I finally realized where we were headed. Hey, could this new house be... When I asked him that, he turned the wheel and said,
My parents' house, of course.
What? I said so, feeling really surprised. Wait a minute. You mean we're going to live with my mother-in-law and father-in-law?
Yes, that's right.
What? I didn't hear anything about this.
Well, that's because it's a surprise.
What the heck? I'm not at all happy about that surprise. As I was turning pale, my husband saw my facial expression and became grumpy.
What? You don't want to live with my parents?
No, that's not it, but I just wanted you to discuss such an important matter naturally to me, instead of keeping quiet about it.
But if I do that, then it wouldn't be a good surprise.
And that's why I said there's no need to make it a surprise. I was a little irritated that my husband, who couldn't understand my feelings and my tone, became a little colder. My husband became even grumpy and said angrily,
What's with that attitude? You're the one who married me and married into my family. What your husband says is absolute. Don't be selfish and just do what I say.
I was so surprised at the change in my husband's attitude that I froze. My husband had been very kind to me when we were dating and had been a gentleman to me. But he was a different person in front of me right now.
We got here, so get off.
I had no choice but to get out of the car. Then my mother-in-law Phyllis came out from their house. Todd, Brianna, welcome home. Saying so, Phyllis greeted us with a huge smile. I was surprised by my husband's sudden declaration that we were going to live together, but the fact that Phyllis greeted us so kindly made my anxiety disappear a little. My parents-in-law are nice people, so living together might not be hard. Well, if possible, I wanted to live only with just the two of us at first. I've already asked the movers to move my stuff, so there's no backing out now. I was not convinced, but I had no choice but to move in with my in-laws. But this decision was a huge mistake I had made. I should have left my parents-in-law at that time, even if I had to throw everything away. I went to my in-laws' house with a lot of anxiety. On the first day, my in-laws treated me kindly, and I felt a little calmer. However, I felt a little distrustful towards my husband. I wondered if that overbearing attitude of Todd was his true nature. At dinner that night, my husband was in a good mood after having his favorite food delivered to his house, so I did not know if it was his true nature or not. But the next day, I would soon regret coming to this house. When I woke up in the morning and went to the living room, Phyllis had a scary look on her face. Good morning. I thought she might be angry, so I greeted her quietly. But Phyllis did not respond back and ordered me to make breakfast as soon as possible. When I was being stunned, Phyllis looked annoyed and yelled at me. Why are you just standing there? Get moving. Prepare breakfast. I had no choice but to stand in the kitchen after being yelled at like that. I didn't know where the cooking utensils and seasonings were, and I didn't want to be asked to cook a meal for the family all of a sudden. As I fumbled around, Phyllis let out a deep sigh. Oh no, you can't do any housework at all, can you? You are useless as a wife. I don't know why she'd say that to me. Then Phyllis glared at me.
What's with that face?
Huh?
You're making a face like you're trying to go against me.
Oh, no.
You're a cocky wife, you know. You've married into this family, and you have to do as we tell you to do.
I was completely speechless. Phyllis was making the same comments as what Todd had said yesterday. Perhaps the true nature of the people in this house is the same for everyone, and they intend to treat the wife as slaves. As I was preparing breakfast with this thought in mind, my husband and father-in-law, Dan, woke up. My father-in-law said one word: coffee. As I was concentrating on preparing breakfast, I heard Dan's angry voice.
Hey, you! I said coffee. Can you not hear well?
Dan apparently said that one word, coffee, to tell me to prepare coffee. I was surprised, but quickly prepared the coffee.
My goodness, what a useless wife you are. I guess you haven't done any housework in your life, have you?
Dan sipped his coffee while saying such a thing. I realized that not a single person in this house was on my side. And for the rest of the day, my in-laws were always trying to bully me.
You're the housewife, so it's natural that you have to do all the housework.
It's only natural, since Todd is the one who feeds for you.
My in-laws would say things like that. I explained many times that I work from home, but they would not listen to me. My husband's goal seemed to be to take me to my in-laws and use me as their housekeeper, and they didn't even feel guilty at what they were doing to me.
You better listen to my mother and father. If I hadn't married you, no one would have taken you in as a wife.
My husband would often verbally abuse me like that, and every single time I heard him say those things, I got depressed. When I didn't rebel and did as they said, my in-laws got more and more out of line and stopped treating me like a person. First of all, they stopped calling me by name and only said, "Hey, you." Then they started to use words to denigrate my personality on a daily basis. My in-laws kept saying,
"You parasite."
And before I knew it, my husband started calling me a parasite too. I wanted to leave this house, but I knew that if I just ran away, I would end up not being able to have a chance to get back at them. My in-laws would probably go around telling my neighbors and relatives that I was a terrible wife and made me look bad. I cannot allow that to happen. I was actually looking for an opportunity to revenge on my in-laws. That's why I've been going through these hardships. In the midst of all this, something happened that was indeed unbearable for me. It happened one day. My husband unusually asked me to make a reservation at a fancy restaurant. Normally, I would think this was just an order, but it was almost my husband and I's wedding anniversary. I was surprised because I didn't think my husband would remember our anniversary. I was just a little bit happy and tried to call and make a reservation. But when I tried to make a reservation for 2, Phyllis suddenly snatched the phone away from me.
"Please make a reservation for 4 people."
She then hung up the phone. "What are you doing?" I said as I asked her to give me the phone back. Phyllis replies,
"You made a reservation for 2 people. Are you an idiot?"
But my husband and I were celebrating our wedding anniversary that day. When I said that much, Phyllis interrupted me and said,
What? What are you talking about?
"Who cares about that?"
"My daughter who studied abroad is coming home that day, so we're all going out for dinner as a family."
Excuse me? Apparently, my mother-in-law was planning to go to a restaurant not with me, my husband, and my father-in-law, but with them and my sister-in-law. I was completely appalled. I am a part of this house too. I am your family member, you know. My mother-in-law, Phyllis, snickered when I said that.
"Huh? Who are you? Who do you think you are?" My family only consists of 4 people. You're just a slave, a housekeeper. Don't ever get the wrong idea.
No matter what I do, my mother-in-law seems to treat me like a stranger. Since I ran out of patience, I decided to go back to my parents' house. I then packed my bags and went to my parents' house while my in-laws went to the fancy restaurant. My parents were surprised to see me arrive with my large luggage. I explained to my parents about my life at my in-laws until now. My parents were furious when they heard what I had to say.
I'll have a chat with them.
But I calmly replied to my parents, "Don't worry, I've already taken my revenge."
What?
My parents both looked confused. I told my mother, "It's been a while since I've had your meals, Mom, and I want to relax," and went inside the house. And my mother put all her skill into cooking many delicious home-cooked meals. While I was enjoying my mother's cooking, my phone rang repeatedly. Most of the calls and messages were from my husband and mother-in-law, so I decided to turn off my phone. That day, I took a relaxing bath at my parents' house and went to sleep in a relaxed state. Then the next day, when I turned on my phone, I still received many calls from my mother-in-law and husband. I had no choice but to answer the phone. Then I heard my mother-in-law's panicking voice.
You, what are you doing? You can't just leave the divorce papers and take all your stuff with you.
That's exactly what I mean. I can no longer live with you people. I can't stand your bullying anymore. As I said this, I heard my husband's voice. Apparently, the phone was on speaker.
You've got to be kidding me. I won't allow you to divorce me. I mean, come home right now and do the housework, you parasite.
Todd spits out his words. I really don't know how I can deal with these people anymore. Because you keep on behaving like that, that's why I don't want to live with you all anymore.
What? Hey, you better be joking. A wife is supposed to do whatever her husband and his family says. If you don't understand that, you're not qualified to be a wife.
I struggled to hold back my laughter at my husband, who was getting himself into more and more trouble. Why don't you just leave it at that already?
Huh? What do you mean?
Did you really think that I haven't done anything for about the last 6 months or so? I kept a notebook of all the times you people have abused and bullied me, and I recorded every horrible word you said to me. I even recorded what you said on the phone just now.
What the? How dare you?
My in-laws started to get upset, so I decided to tell them all about my plan. I have all the evidence of the treatment I received from you guys, and after showing it to them, I'm consulting with my lawyer. According to my lawyer, I can get a divorce due to it being your fault, Todd, and I can also get compensation for the damages you caused.
Compensation?
And my revenge won't end just like that. I'm sending copies of the bullying records to your workplace, your father-in-law's workplace, your relatives, and your neighbors. And a certified letter to your workplace. When I said this, my in-laws fell silent.
Oh no.
I heard my husband's voice, which sounded like a squeezed, fading voice. And I finally said, "Oh, and you keep calling me a parasite and talking about other people, but I do work from home and I make a lot more money than your son. I know you people don't understand that because you think I'm just a housewife just because I'm home. If you think I'm lying, why don't you ask your idiot son? Either way, I'm definitely getting a divorce anyway, and I'm getting compensation. Well, that's all from me, so don't call me anymore. If you call again, I'll call the police." I said that to them over the phone. My in-laws became quiet at once, so I hung up the phone and blocked their numbers from my phone. After that, as expected, my in-laws got a lot of criticisms from people around them. Both Dan and my husband are getting cold shoulder from people at work. Furthermore, the relatives cursed at them, saying, "You are a disgrace to your relatives, and don't even come to your relatives' gatherings." As for Phyllis, she became mentally ill and became a shut-in because her neighbors stopped hanging out with her. On the other hand, I successfully got a divorce from my husband and also got compensation. I am now working from home at my parents' house and enjoying my days, occasionally traveling abroad with my parents. I will continue to take my parents to various countries to take care of them as their daughter while working hard at my job. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.